welcome back to Whitetail Garage. So this video is probably going to be a little disjointed. Probably going to see me in a couple of different shirts because doing this convertible top, I'm doing it over the holidays, and so I've had to break up weekends and find time here and there. You know, I'll run the videos that catch you up to this point so far, where I have painted the inside of the drip trough, as well as cleaned up and painted the top. I found on the vintage forums what some people are dubbing the convertible top Bible. Gentleman put it together. I shared it out there for everybody, so go search the vintage forums for it. It's out there. Super helpful, I think. We'll find out, I guess, how helpful it is. But I mean, just reading it is pretty impressive. What he's put together. And then there's there's a couple of YouTube videos that I've watched that pretty well show what to do. And then I believe some of the tops I've seen are they eliminate as much of the guesswork as they can. I believe that this top is one of those that does that. I've got the Key, K-E-E, Key Auto Top for this black vinyl, which is what came on the car from the factory. So I believe I've got all the right stuff to make this happen, and it'd be fairly straightforward. But we'll see. Like I said, never done one. So first steps, I've got to take the top off. I've already taken a bunch of measurements and removed what was left of the old top. I saved it just for references if I need it. Next steps, I've got to clean it up. So I've got to get all of the contact cement, all the tack strip, all that stuff out and get it cleaned up, decide whether or not I'm going to paint it, and then I can do convertible top stuff. The cleanup that I have to do is I got to get rid of all of the contact cement up here and get to a nice fresh surface. And then under here, I've got to replace that little tack strip. This is the one that's riveted on in the front. So I've got new fresh rivets for that. So those have got to be drilled out, cleaned up, and be ready to go back in. These are actually in really great shape. There's no play whatsoever here, so I'm excited about that. These bolts apparently wear out from what I've found, and they're in great shape. I am missing the dowel on both sides, the alignment dowel, but I do have replacements for those. Got to take the small tack strip out of these. Quite interesting. Apparently, Mini 66s, I guess many Mustangs have 2 screws here instead of tack strips for the pad. My pad is stapled down. So finding that exact tack strip, it didn't exist as far as the Mustang shops go. So I bought this off of eBay. It's the same tack strip material that you use, that you get in all the others. It's just a little bit different size, thickness and width. And I tried to get something that was similar to that. I bet I have to trim this a bit, but I wanted it to be the right thickness in here, and I didn't want to have to layer it like you end up having to do on the 4th bow. So I'll have to do that here and here because those are for the pad. And then with the 4th bow, I've already removed all the felt from the corners, but you can see it's pretty rusty. I got to get all that cleaned up and then get the rest of this felt out, get it cleaned up and ready to glue in the new tack strip. Unfortunately, the tack strip for the rear, you end up having to stack 3 of these to make it correct. I'm not super excited about that, but it just is what it is. They don't really make that felt anymore that I can find. Anyways, everything looks good. There's not excessive wear in any of the pivot points. I mean, everything's in pretty great shape. The tension cables, they were good, so I'm going to keep those. All the pins and bushings and everything looks good. It moves freely, doesn't bind up. The assist springs are working well. I really want to go with a power convertible top, add the power to it. I think it comes out to roughly about $600 for the harness and the motor and the hydraulic lifts. But I'll have to decide. I mean, that can always be done later. It doesn't have to be done right now, but it certainly makes it easier access to get to this stuff when the top is off. Again, like I said, everything is in good shape. It's just a little dirty. So I want to clean it all up, and then I'll decide whether or not I'm going to paint it. You know, I've got some rust in some spots, but it's not terrible. I don't know if it warrants taping everything off and, you know, covering the whole interior up and then painting it. I'm not going to unbolt it. I know it's pretty easy to unbolt, but I'm not going to unbolt it and then paint it and bolt it back in. I probably should have thought about that before I bolted it back in the vehicle. I don't know if you remember way back, the convertible top had been cut off the vehicle and unbolted, and so it actually came separate and wasn't attached to the vehicle when I got it. So I probably should have thought about then, but you know, it is what it is. Something I noticed as I removed this tack strip in here is maybe this could be converted to, come on, focus. Maybe it could be converted to having screws. Because you see what holds the bow on is the screws that go through here, that go all the way through this layer that wraps all the way around, and this kind of inner layer. This ridge you don't fill on the bottom, and so let's see if I can show you what I'm talking about. See, that ridge isn't there, and as those screws, yeah, you can't really see. Anyways, that ridge isn't on the bottom. You can't feel it on the bottom, and so I think if I were to open up a hole in this thing by drilling, and then I've already got to make some screws for these, because these, I only had 3 per side, and you can see there's clearly supposed to be 4. There were only 3 per side, but I found, again, in that Bible, how to make my own screws that fit here, and they're nice and flush and flat. And so I should be able to do the same thing here. It's just I would have to create my own holes, and maybe even tap them, but they may be too long. So I'm not sure yet. It's interesting. I think I would still want, maybe, I don't know, still want some tack strip in there though, so that way there's not a drop here. But I guess, I mean, you don't have it all the way across here, so maybe you don't need it if you do that. I don't know. It's interesting. I'm going to have to think through that. We are going to clean up the convertible top, the frame, and get it ready for paint. I'm going to go ahead and paint it. So I'll have to tape off the car, get it all squared away, get this kind of propped up where I can hit all sides of it. Down in here, I'm going to have to get all this taped off, because I should remove the convertible top, I'm sure, but I think I can do it without removing it. And that's just less headache, because it was a pain to put it in because of the spring-loaded, or the spring assist. That was just a pain. So if I can get around not having to do that again, that would be ideal. It's already set up and it's aligned, so yeah, I'm gonna try and get around that. So if I've got the materials, I believe I'm gonna go ahead and get all that squared away. He is taking the last bit of weather strip off right here on both sides, so we can get that squared away. And then the other thing I want to work on today is the convertible top documentation I was referencing. They show you how to make the bolts. I'm trying to see if I have any here. Oh no, that's the washer, so they've just fallen out. So the pad screws, let me get one out to show you what I'm talking about here. So here's kind of what the pad screws look like. They're a flathead Phillips head, and they've got that washer on them. And they don't sell the screw or the washer. It's not available to purchase. So blurry. No. So that documentation I was referencing, I think I called it the Convertible Top Bible. You can put them right there with that other that I just opened up. Nope, 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 nope. Right there, the baggie. Just set them right there with it. Perfect. So what they suggest you get is just stainless steel machine screws. Bought those off of Amazon. Inexpensive. You have to buy 50 at a time. And then these kind of washers. They are stainless steel, number 8 stainless steel countersunk cup washers. So again, got those off of Amazon. Both of those are pretty inexpensive, but you're not done there. So you have to create this little. You have to take a piece of metal. Luckily, I've got some leftover from some work I did on the 90 when I built a tensioner bracket. I'll use some of that material to build this little tool that allows you to flatten out that washer, and then you trim the excess. That allows you to recreate these guys. So you'll get recreate these. So I'll have all 4 instead of just 3 on either side. And then if I decide to use them for this, for the second and third bows, then I'll use that same method. So I can work on that today, get that thing made so I can create those. Now we're going to make the thing that I was talking about in order to flatten these out. So first we're going to drill a 3/16 hole in this piece. Next we're going to build a countersink. I'm going to try it with one of these cheapy countersink drill bits. See if that'll cut that metal. I don't know if it will. I'm going to start with this and I'll move on to something else if this doesn't work. Seems to be doing a pretty good job. Just a tiny bit more. All right, so that's a 3/16 hole, and then I did the countersink. That worked really well. According to the instructions, it needs to countersink about a 1/16 of an inch past the head of the bolt. So I think that's pretty close. And we'll give it a shot. Next steps, I have to put in the screw in the washer and then just hit it with the hammer. So let's see if it works out. Big hammer. Okay. See, it's all nice and flat now. Fills in that shoulder quite nicely. It's just too big a diameter. I'm going to see if that works, and I hope I don't have to trim that back, because frankly that extra support around that would be good, but it may just be too big. Okay, first coat done. It's not great. First of all, you don't see much of it. Secondly, I've got some sanding and paint. I've got to do second coats. Look at how poorly that adhered there. So I'll let that dry, and got a run right here. I've got to let that dry, and then I'll sand it and put a second coat on. All right, so top is all painted. Took several coats to even get that decent of a coat on it, but it'll work. Where I haven't prepped yet is this trough down here. So I'm going to clean that all out, get all of the debris out of it, and I'm going to use Flex Seal in there. It did have a layer of seam sealer in there that was all cracked and coming apart. I've already removed that. It was a pretty thick layer. But I think, I mean, it's like, see if you can see, like, I think I'm going to go like that thick all the way around, filling that whole thing, all of this metal, including down in the trough, so there's a nice layer of rubber for it to ride in. But I think I'm going to do all of that in Flex Seal. I may even do the top of the inner fenders in that as well, just so it's got a nice rubberized coating. So with that being said, I've got a ton to clean up and get it prepped for that. Got all of that out of there, all of the debris and old seam sealer or whatever they had in there. And next I went ahead and got the remainder of the well liner out. I left that in there because I wasn't sure if that piece comes with the well liner, but it does. It overlaps this back here. So I went ahead and removed that because I can get a coat of paint on that when I'm painting the trunk. But next will be tape off this space and protect the car, and then spray in those spray in that trough with Flex Seal. Just to show, this is that Flex Seal I sprayed in. I used a brush to back brush it up against this back edge. Did just the trough in it and did a nice thick coat. And then I went back and painted everything in here with that roll bar paint. The whole trunk all inside under there, even into the inner fenders back there. Everything is painted with the roll bar and chassis paint. Made sure I got rid of all of the rust, did a rust treatment on that stuff, and then just the roll bar chassis paint black. And then I'm going to glue in the trunk liner that matches these. I'm going to glue that in with, I'm going to try using the spray I'm going to try using the spray Permatex headliner and carpet glue. So just, you know, do a couple of like psh, 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 and then tack it down. Hoping I can keep it fairly light and it'll stay in position. But I definitely want it like tucked to match all the curves like it's supposed to. And plus I want to definitely glue in the little weird strips that go in right here. I want to glue those in because obviously they won't stay unless they're glued. So I'm not going to mess with that today. That'll be a different time, but just showing you my plan for that. So that'll be in a separate video. But for now, all of this is painted. It's all ready to go to the next step, which is put in tack strips. Again, header tack strip, and I've got those sections here that I need to do, here and here on either side of those bows. And then you've got the stacked tack strip that goes in here. All right, so I'm going to end it right there. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.